This is Scott Spears, and on Sunday we lost an Emmy Award-winning, Academy Award-nominated actress, as Eileen Brennan, famous for her work in motion pictures such as The Sting, Private Benjamin, Clue, and The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, died at age 80. Joining us to remember this great actress, and I don't use that term loosely here, her co-star from Private Benjamin, who you may know best from his starring roles in 227 and Sanford and Son, Hal Williams. Hal, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Scott.
Before we get to the interview on Eileen here, I do want to read something. Both you and Eileen's co-star from Private Benjamin, Goldie Hawn, has released a statement. We have lost my old friend Eileen Brennan. No one ever made me laugh more. Now I cry. Please keep singing, darling, on high. Rest. And that's from Goldie Hawn.
Mm-hmm.
Hal, when you heard the news of Eileen's passing, what'd you think?
I was in shock because I was not aware. I didn't learn until very early this morning that she had passed away because I'm on location. And I was just crestfallen because she was such a dear friend, even though I had not seen her in the past 2 years. Eileen was the consummate actor, the consummate professional, a great human being, the champion for the everyman, a champion for the common man and the underdog, but a very direct person when she interacted with people. She didn't pull any punches. She was straightforward about everything, and you had to love her. You had to love the courage she had, the sense of humor she had. She made me feel so special, and the opportunity to work with her was such a great thing for me because I had idolized her in all her previous movies and stuff, and I said, I'm going to be working with Goldie Hawn and Eileen Brennan close up for 8 weeks. It was just wonderful, and all the members of her family, Katie and Jerry, who was her stand-in, her sister Jerry, Petey, who was her nephew in the NFL, as a coach in the NFL, all of the kids, Sam and Pat, I mean, all of them, we became family. And it's the kind of situation where you don't have to see somebody every month, every day, even every year, but it's always there. Every St. Patrick's Day, I was always send everybody a card. Mm. So she's going to be sorely missed professionally and in every other way.
Absolutely, and I want to get back to that personality in a second because I think it was very unique. Hal, when somebody passes away at 80, we think now 80 is young. When you hear this, is it shocking to know that she's gone?
In a way, yes. In another way, no, because from the time we went to television with Private Benjamin, and Goldie and Eileen went out to dinner one night while we were in the week of rehearsal in Venice, left the restaurant, and Eileen turned and said goodbye to Goldie and stepped off the curb, and a drunken driver came flying down and struck her and carried on the hood of his car almost 100 feet. Shattered her leg. She went through tremendous treatments, a lot of pain, recovered somewhat from that, and was on a proscenium stage down in Texas and stepped on a black cloth over the orchestra pit, fell into the orchestra pit, and was injured all over again. Then she's had other complications down through the years and was not doing that well physically when she got the latest illness, and that's what took her away from here. I knew that she had had a long period of poor health.
Do you remember the last time you saw or spoke to Eileen?
The last time I spoke to Eileen, she was living in Ojai, California, with her 2 sons. And we spoke briefly. I hadn't seen her, and she was asking me about coming down to the desert where I live in Palm Springs area, or over to Hawaii, where I live on the island of Kauai. And we talked about that, the possibilities. I said, well, you just let me know when you got the time and when I'm going to be there, and we'll hook it up. Mm-hmm. And that was the last time I really spoke with her.
Do you remember your first encounter with Eileen?
My first encounter with her, I was nervous and everything else because I had auditioned with Goldie and gotten the role, but I had never met Eileen. And this is a giant. coming on the set, and I didn't know what to do. I was in awe, and she grabbed me and hugged me. And this is you said a sense of, Goldie said a sense of humor. She was fascinated by my derriere. She would always pat me on the butt and say, "That's a beautiful butt."
Now that's a great story. I like that.
So that's just the kind of person she was, and that put me at ease, if anything could.
Hal, as a great actor yourself, if you take away all the I don't want to say pomp and circumstance, but if you take away all the things that were just Eileen Brennan, when she was portraying another character, how good was she?
Over the top, excellent.
Yeah.
That's why she was so much in demand, and that's why she had tremendous power. She had tremendous power over the materials that she did and choosing roles and everything, and in working with her. Directors who worked with Eileen prepared themselves to work with Eileen because she pulled no punches. She knew her art. She knew her craft. She admired excellence, writing, directing, and everything. And she could not abhor anything less than that. So you had to be on your J.O.B. to work with Eileen.
And that brings us back to her personality, which we talked about earlier. There was something different about this woman as a whole. I had her on the program several times, and I think people could tell then. What was it about her? She had a different way. You would never meet anybody else like Eileen Brennan.
There was nothing pretentious about her, ever. She was the same all the time, and I don't care what situation, what circumstance, what level of society she was engaged in and involved in and participating in. She was the same, but you didn't have to worry about when you went to an affair or a meeting or anything, what Eileen was going to show up that day. It's the same Eileen all the time.
Absolutely.
All the time.
You know, Hal, it's interesting because Goldie Hawn was obviously the star of Private Benjamin, and Eileen and you were there, and a bunch of other great actors. But the Academy Awards, and I don't want to say all the time, but they tend to look down, it seems to me, on comedic pieces. I don't know the last time a comedy ever won the Academy Award.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Eileen was nominated for that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, what does that say to her performance?
Well, you know, there's an unwritten, I feel, there's an unwritten thing about actors doing different roles and, you know, dramatic roles, comedic roles and everything, and that's why I kind of share the views of the George C. Scotts and Marlon Brandos in that you can't really say best actor and best actress and everything, because judging an actor for a comedic piece and then judging an actor for like Abe Lincoln, like Daniel Day-Lewis did, I mean, how can you do that? You know, comedy is much more difficult to do, but I think drama is much more respected. And it kind of gets a kind of a shaky stigma attached to comedy things. Well, it's so funny and it's so enjoyable that unconsciously in persons' minds, maybe voting participants' minds, that, you know, that was just like falling off a log for them. This other thing was much more demanding. And that's an unfair judgment to me.
I think you're right, and I think that's very well said. Hal, you had the great privilege of working with her not only in the movie, but also in the subsequent television series of Private Benjamin, during which time she did suffer that horrific hit by the car. Did she change after that? No.
I only got to visit her. She never came back to work after that. They replaced her with Polly Holliday. For the last, we had 4 more segments to shoot before we found out whether or not we were going to get renewed. And the network felt, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm saying it anyway, the network felt, since Polly was not interested in continuing the role, that the series wouldn't hold up without Eileen. So that's why we didn't get renewed any further than the 13 episodes we did for television.
But lucky for us as the viewer, she did return to work. She did some great roles. She did Clue, which has become a cult film.
Yes.
She did The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, which has become a cult film for children. And she had a great reoccurring role on Will and Grace, which I believe was one of her last performances. Did you see any of her later work? And if so, what'd you think?
She was just a master craftsman. You know, it's interesting that you said that. She did those roles after she had an extensive recovery from that accident. It took a while, but she bounced back, and she's a real trooper in the tradition, and she came right back, and she was sensational in everything she did.
And you know, that's strange, Hal, and maybe that's the question I was trying to get to awkwardly earlier on. Did Eileen Brennan, no matter how, I don't want to say bad, but not as great the script as it could have been, did she ever turn in a bad performance?
I don't have any knowledge of her turning in a bad performance because she could rise above the material.
Yeah, absolutely.
With her energy and with her excellent performance, she rose above the material, and that's the mark of a great performer.
I think you're exactly right. Favorite memory of Eileen as you look back? When somebody 20 years from now says, Hal, tell me about Eileen Brennan, what's the first memory that's going to pop in your mind?
A big smile pops on my face because she was so sweet to me. There were so many people that were afraid of Eileen because she was demanding. She demanded you do your best, which she should have. And so many people don't do that. So many people give in and go for the, like you said, the pomp, circumstance, and all the BS involved in our business. But you have to love her. Once you meet her and know her, you have to love her for who she is. And if you saw her, it brightened whatever kind of day you were having. It made it even brighter.
I think you're exactly right. Hal, when you can answer this from either perspective, when people look back 100 years from now, because her work is going to survive, there's no doubt in my mind, when they look back at this woman and they pull her up, how are you going to remember her personally? How do you think the audience will remember her personally?
I think those of us old heads who still admire early films, black and white films, and not all this car chasing and blowing up stuff, when classic films like TMZ classics and things like that, we'll think about that she has to be, if there was such a thing, she has to be, she didn't get the Academy Award, but she's got to be in the Academy Hall of Fame, and at one of the top 10.
And people wanted to work with her.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because they knew anytime there was a project with her name attached to it, you don't have to think about whether you want to do it. If she's in it, I want to be there.
Yeah.
Because whatever it is, whether it's comedy, drama, it's going to be a great experience. We're going to do great work. She's going to get the best out of us, but more importantly, we're going to have a good time doing it.
And wasn't that the truth? You know, in my short experience with her, the thing I've been saying all day, one of the most unique people, and I don't mean that in a bad way, that you could ever meet. There was nobody like her.
No.
Never will be.
I don't think there ever will be again.
No. Hal, I can't thank you enough. I know you're busy, a busy time of year for you, doing some work down there in North Carolina, getting ready for something great.
The National Black Theater Festival goes on all this week, 80 plays.
And
you believe that. And I'm doing one called Women in the Pit about women preachers. So I'm an elder this week.
And you keep working, and we're glad you keep working, and we're going to catch up with you soon when you come back to Ohio in the near future. But boy, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of a busy week to remember what I consider one of the greatest actresses of our time, Eileen Brennan.
You're absolutely right. Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you, Hal.
Bye-bye.